Yo, what up, everyone? Happy New Year and all that good stuff. Um, all right, today's topic is going to cover black privilege, and there's been a lot of talk going on lately about white privilege and how white people believe they're entitled to some sense of success or rights just because they're white. But in the black community, we have the same thing. I think it's a little black privilege is a little more detrimental to black society than white privilege ever could be. Now, I see black privilege on a daily basis. I've seen it my entire life. Now, the black privileged, as I like to call them, are usually those with a little education. They have consistent employment. They live outside of the quote unquote ghetto. And they seem to have a disregard for all black people that make them appear to be niggas. So basically, those who I consider black privileged are middle class black people who don't want to be associated with quote unquote niggas. Okay, these usually people that have a little bit of education. They have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, some professional degree, and they feel that because they're a little more learned than the rest of the black community, we're actually above those niggas. They might have consistent employment, such as a government job or some large entity, which allows them to believe, hey, I'm not held to the same standard as those other black people. Don't put me in the class with them. I's a good nigga. And another thing is they live outside the neighborhood. They try to dissociate themselves from those who they believe to be niggas. So it's like they say, I live in the suburbs or I live on a good part of town. Don't classify me in that group. I look down on them. In my life, I've seen the black privilege at different levels. I saw it in high school. I saw it in college. I saw it in law school. I see it in the professional world every day. Now, the first time I saw it was in high school, and that's not really like, man, these some uppity ass niggas, even though they were like from low income neighborhoods such as myself. They seem to feel as if, well, I go to this quote unquote prestigious school. Don't group me with everyone else. And looking back on it, I understand why some of them were so proud to be at that school because, they haven't accomplished shit since then, besides having kids and getting married to nothing ass motherfuckers. So they should have been proud to be at that school because that was one of the few accomplishments of their life. Now, I never really understood that. It broke down to, well, I'm in an advanced honors class, or I'm in this class. I'm black and I go to this school. I don't go to a neighborhood school where they're shooting at people every day. Well, just to put it in terms, I believe when I was at that school, there were 2 serial killers that went there, quite a few fights, drugs, STDs. At one time, I believe the high school was called the Pregnant Girl High School of Chicago. So that uppityness I never really understood, quite frankly. Now, the next level I saw that was in college. Now, take it out, I went to HBCU, and this was probably the most detrimental form of black privilege that I saw. It was like everyone there was like, well, I go to college. I'm not like the kids back home. I'm here now. But once again, at this school, there were people who sold weed, crack, heroin, had guns on campus. There were numerous rapes, everything. But it was just like, ooh, black privilege. I'm here now. You should bow down and let me do what I do. And I think something that really kept me grounded was the fact that I was broke. I think that really set a standard for me in life to be like, step outside and say, okay, I'm not in the black privilege. I got to work for everything I got. I don't deserve anything just because I'm here. I still have to work for things to achieve in life. And that's something that I carried forth for a long time. One of the things I remember from college that really spoke out to me about black privilege was my school didn't give me my book money my first semester of college. So I went there. I went to class. I remember it was at 8 o'clock in the morning class. It was biology. And I had this fat, nasty biology teacher who was like the head dick sucker for this sorority down there. And she was a horrible person. She looked around the class and everybody had books. I remember, quite frankly, I was the only person in the class that didn't have a book. And she looked at me and she said, well, I'm looking around the class today and I see some of you all with no books. And there was only one person with no book. It was me. And she said, if you don't have money to have a book, you don't need to be in college. You really shouldn't be here. And taking mine, I went to college, I was 16 years old. So, that was like a little slap upside the head. That hurt a little bit. So I didn't say anything there. People snickered and giggled and stuff, and they looked around. And I went back to my room, called my grandmother and mother. And my grandma, she's a tough motherfucker. She tough as nails. And I sat there and I cried on the phone with her. Like, I don't want to be in school. I ain't got no books. I'm coming back home. And she basically told me, man up, motherfucker. You down there now. Shit, you got to do what you got to do. We're going to find a way to get you a book. So my grandma and my OG, they got together. They scrapped their little pennies together. They sent me the money. I bought one book that semester, a biology book. And I was a political science major. This was tripped out. The only book I bought that semester was a biology book. Took the book everywhere I went. Ended up getting straight A's that semester. And felt pretty good. And I had like a high disregard for every teacher and motherfucker at that school after that. And I still do to this day. And my experience was at that school, at HBCU, their black privilege was they taught you basically that if you don't use proper English and don't perform in a professional manner, that's not what they were trying to teach. They were trying to say, basically tell you, speak as the white people would speak. Dress as white people dress, behave as white people dress. It wasn't enough to be an intelligent black person or be an intelligent person in general. They wanted us to mimic the way white people act. And I really lost respect for that school as an HBCU because they didn't nurture us to become professionals or professional black people. They basically wanted us to emulate white people and told us, hey, that's the way you're supposed to do it. And those who did do that, they were highly praised at the school. They were like, yay, good house nigga, yeah, And somebody like me, even though I had a 3.8 GPA, I stayed for the most part out of trouble. I don't think I got too many people pregnant down there. I was looked upon differently because everyone I hung out with was a drunk, weed smokers, smashing chicks, staying out late, partying, but I still got my work done. And that was frowned upon, Thursday, I believe, was dress up day at the school. That's the day like all the black people put on their finest and they go to class. I wear basketball shorts and sandals, something I still wear to this day. And that was frowned upon by the professors down there. A lot of the professors, a lot of administration, a lot of staff. For the most part, they didn't like anyone down there who didn't, as they believe, conform to what they believe you need to do to be a successful person, a successful black person, or a successful person at all. And lost a lot of respect for the school because of that. Like, to this day, I swear I would not give a penny to that school. I won't even say their name because they're not worth me saying their name. The next level that I experienced the black privilege at was probably at the law school level. There weren't too many of us in law school, probably a handful of us. And don't get me wrong, I met some very cool black people that I consider friends to this day in law school, love them to death, probably about 4 or 5. A lot of white friends I met there, love them to death to this day. But what a lot of people probably didn't realize was like the black privilege and the animosity among black students there. For the most part, I'm considered a nigga. I mean, I don't care. Don't get me wrong. I don't really give a rat's ass. But in that level where there were so few black people there, it was thought upon that my behavior wasn't correct for that environment. And I thought that once you reach law school and you're on that level, diversity is supposed to be key to helping everyone understand what they're going to have to deal with in the professional world. You're not going to just have to deal with one class of people, especially when you become an attorney. And to this day, I love my neighborhood. I represent my neighborhood to the fullest. And I speak in a manner that many people think is a ghetto or project-ish or whatever the hell you want to call it. And a lot of black people look down on that, especially in that quote-unquote professional level, because it was thought that they just wasn't proper for that. And, it's like, we're here now. We shouldn't act like that. I never looked at that. To this day, I'm like, man, I might be somewhere, but I'm not quote-unquote here. I got a lot of other stuff I need to do. And I like to think personally that my background and my neighborhood and my experiences growing up are what prepared me to gain more success in the future and have helped me gain what I have so far in life. Now, in the professional world, I run into quite a lot of black elitism, black privileged, and it's funny because a lot of people are like, well, you're a little too aggressive. You're ghetto, you know. Maybe you should watch what you say. Number one, I don't know how to put this, but my only friend in the courtroom really is the person who's paying me. I might choose to associate with everyone else in the courtroom, but my number one friend in there is my client. I'm going to behave in a manner that allows me to accurately and just to the best of my ability represent my client. Don't really care about how other people approach that. I see a lot of black people in court who quote unquote lose their balls. No, I'm not going to put that in quotation. They lose their balls. That simple. They're more busy trying to fit in and say the right thing in order to appear as a quote unquote good lawyer or good person, and they don't get the point across accurately. I might go in there and I might have on a suit that makes me look more like a criminal than an attorney, but I'm going in and I'm doing my job to the best of my ability, and I'm doing it pretty damn well if I'm going to say so myself. In the professional world, I deal with a lot of clients who are not privileged. The individuals who come from a background similar to my own, it's just we went down different roads. And even though I may speak harshly to these clients and I might come down hard on them, I do it because I got a lot of love for them. One story I had a client. He was out on bond for a PCS case, possession of a controlled substance. And just looking at the evidence, it was obvious that the case was planted on him and that the drugs were planted on him. He lived with his girlfriend, his girlfriend and their child. His mother was a heroin addict. His father was dead. Younger than me, about 19, 20. I told him, hey man, stay off of that part of town. You know, the police be gunning at you. Don't do this, don't do that. Well, he ended up catching another case while he was out on bond, it was a simple marijuana case, but because he was out on bond, the possession of a controlled substance case that I was working on had his bond revoked. He sat in jail for 6 months, I believe. The state offered, boot camp. And he was willing to take the boot camp. He said, I understand this is how it goes. You know, you told me to stay in the house. I messed up. Hey, I'll eat that charge. And even though it wasn't me serving the time, I didn't want that felony back. I didn't want him to have that felony conviction on his background. So I spoke with the young man. I talked a little harsh to him, but I looked at him more as a little brother, and I cursed at him a lot, but he understood why I was doing it. And I said, I know I'm not doing the time, but I need you to sit this out so we can work this case out. Through a lot of good luck and I guess some skill, I believe it was the Friday before Labor Day. Yeah, it was Friday before Labor Day of 2014. We won the case. He was released. Went back home to his baby's mother, to his girlfriend, his daughter. Got his life together. Last time I spoke with him, he was planning to leave to the Navy. Very proud of him. Now I got another case. This little fuck. His mother and father had good jobs. Had been on the job for a while. They sent him off to college. He was a first class fuck up. There was a case where a young man was shot in the face. My client at the time, he didn't pull the trigger, but he simply drove the vehicle. Okay, so allegedly some shots came out the car that he was driving. The young man was hit in the face twice while walking. Once again, through a blessing, the bullets went straight through his jaw, didn't hit him. Came out the other side of his jaw, didn't hit anything. So, initially he's looked upon as, trying to charge him an accessory to attempted murder. I talked, they were offering 15 years initially. His parents never came to me and said he didn't do it or we know he was wrong. They were just saying, well, how can they hold him? Can't they give him something better? We raised him. He doesn't live in the hood. He's in school. We taught him right from wrong. I'm thinking, okay, I never put it on my head, you fucked up, you gotta take this time. I'm going to get you the best deal possible. So I kept working. And eventually offered the little motherfucker, I think it was 2 years probation. And they dropped his charge to a misdemeanor reckless misconduct. And it could have been a lot worse. This little motherfucker family, well, no, that's not right. Why does he have to be on probation? He's afraid to go outside. And I'm thinking, man, the little motherfucker should be afraid to go outside, because when he outside, his dumb ass don't make proper decisions, so his ass should stay in a fucking house. But they really just worked me over there, because they felt that because they had some education, they had jobs, they were homeowners, and their son went to college, that they weren't held to the same standard that other black people were held to. And it wasn't necessarily he was held to the same standard black people were held to. He was held to the standard of a motherfucker who got caught. Shit, mother got shot in the face. Shit, something got to happen. I had another case where a young lady, well, not a young lady, but she caught a DUI. And it was, she was drunk. It was that simple. And her thing was, she asked me, why are they treating me like a regular black person? I don't live in the city and I have degrees. And before I knew it, I told her, no, they ain't treating you like a black person. They treating you like a nigga. And, we eventually resolved the case, but there's attitudes like this within the black community that piss motherfuckers off. You have a group of black people who believe, well, why won't people listen to me? Why won't people follow me? They should do what we do. Well, when you're telling someone that you should listen to me because I'm better than you, it's a little hard for that person to listen to you. Just because you manage to get through the cracks, you have some education, you have some employment, you don't live in the neighborhood anymore, that doesn't mean that you're privileged. It doesn't really mean you accomplish anything in life. It just means that you're comparatively successful. You're successful compared to motherfuckers who ain't accomplished shit. But in hindsight, you really ain't shit. And I think that's what a lot of people who suffer from black privilege fail to realize. You're not really shit. And I think they might understand they're not shit. That's why they try to step on other black people who they believe are not as good as them. And it's pretty fucked up, man.